Just like the comics, Batman's reborn. Here's your look at McFarlane Toys. McFarlane Toys Digital DC Rebirth Batman. A playboy billionaire by day, Bruce Wayne's double life affords him the comfort of a life without the financial worry. A loyal butler turned guardian and the perfect base of operations in the ancient network of caves beneath the family's sprawling estate. By night, however, he sheds all pretense, dons the iconic scalped cape and pointed cowl, and takes to the shadowy streets, skies, and rooftops of Gotham City. While DC is looking to course-correct the present, Bruce Wayne still hopes he could have changed the past. Just before we get a closer look, though, at the digital-exclusive DC Rebirth Batman, let's grab the tape measure and see how tall the figure stands. Of all things, where I found this figure was actually at Walmart. A local Walmart started to stock now new DC Multiverse figures, and Batman was one of them. I had to grab him right away. The figure, though, is going to be using what seems to be the same mold as the original DC Rebirth Batman. Unfortunately, I don't have that figure at the moment. I can bring him for comparisons, but the figure, though, is going to about stand the same still. He's going to be about 7 inches in height, or DC Rebirth Batman is 18 centimeters tall. One of the last places I was expecting even just to see this figure was at my local Walmart. Going down the aisle and just expecting disappointment, happened just to look over, and they stocked out a brand new selection of new DC Multiverse figures, including, though, the McFarlane Toys Digital DC Rebirth Batman. This is going to be, though, using the original DC Rebirth Batman. I don't think they've done anything different. I would have been able to bring in the original DC Rebirth Batman. His whereabouts, though, remain unknown. It does, though, look like his head sculpt is slightly different than the one we did get from before. I certainly would encourage you guys, if you get the chance, obviously go and check out my earlier review of the black cowled version of DC Rebirth just to see what that figure looks like. I will at least bring in somewhat of a serviceable stand-in, one of the best Batmans around. Here's what the figure looks like. Also, a blue cowl release, the DC Rebirth, no, the DC Nightfall Batman, which again is sharing somewhat of a similar color scheme. Emblems, though, on the front are a little bit different. Obviously, the head sculpt's a little bit different also as well, but they're also, again, gray and blue cowl Batman figures. Here's also as well what the figure looks like with the recently looked at DC Multiverse Classic Penguin, just to kind of give you guys a scale size there as well. One of the really cool things about the digital DC Rebirth Batman, while using maybe the same mold, sure, it does at least come with an unmasked Bruce Wayne head sculpt, which of course will then be swapped out with the one that we are looking at right now. We'll get to that more in a moment. The figure, though, first of all, comes included with a trading card. The trading card has some exquisite artwork there featured on the front. Batman, of course, now with the emblem outlined in yellow, which I never was a big fan of before, but it has started to grow on me. Down below, of course, we got ourselves Batman. If we, though, flip around to the back of the card, the real name, as if you already didn't know this already, is Bruce Wayne. Obviously, there is also a paragraph read. You can pause, you can read, you can digest it yourself. But like Mama Bear, I've already digested the worm for you. And I read this at the beginning of the review. That's disgusting. Let's move that off to the side. Figure also as well comes included, I know there's another card there. Figure also comes included as well with a digital version of the regular black display stand. So what's done differently is obviously now we've got the DC, we got McFarlane Toys logo down below outlined. I guess, would that be a pentagon? No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hexagon with McFarlane Toys Digital next to that. Just above that, though, there's also as well the peg that can plug into either one of his feet. The figure also comes included as well, if I just move everything out of the way, also with a digital card, an authentication code, where the instructions are you can go to www.mtd.gg to download the McFarlane Toys Digital Viewer app for your Mac or PC. Scratch the above, which I will be doing in a second, to reveal your one-time use code and create your account and login, and then you can go redeem the code to the panel on the screen and follow the instructions for the pop-up window. As I have no real plan to be using this for myself, and on the back, by the way, it does, I guess this would be the front, that would be the back. On the front, it does have still the same outlined logo in hexagonal shape. Of course, you got McFarlane Toys Digital down below. Let's go ahead. I was going to use the Batarang, but I don't want to get crud all over it. So what I'll do instead is I've got my little nail clippers here that I generally use for cutting, of course, the little twist ties that are on these figures. I'm going to scratch this away. And what you guys can do, if you'd like that is that you can use the code that's provided that I've now just revealed, and you can use it for your one-time code. If you do end up using this code, let me know down below in the comment section. I'll give you a virtual star. But there you go. That's for you. I'm digesting it again, like the mama bear, or the mama bird, chewing up that worm for you. There you go. Okay, we'll move that off to the side. The figure also comes includes some swappable hands. Now, he has out of packaging a closed fist hand, and then he has a gestured dynamic hand. If you prefer, though, punching hands on both sides, then Batman does come included with 2 of those. It would obviously just be the mirror flip to the one that you're looking at on this side, just flipped around to the other side. And the figure also comes included with a gripping hand. The gripping hand is really most required, obviously, because he also comes included with a couple of accessories. Don't lose this, whatever you do. If you lose that, boy, you're out of luck. I now probably jinxed myself by saying that. The only thing about the hands, though, and I noticed this more, though, with the closed fist, is that they do come across really small. It seems even more apparent when you attach them onto his forearms, for example. Because he has the gauntlets now also sculpted on his forearms, it kind of even makes more the illusion that the hands are even smaller. But I don't maybe think it's the case. It just seems like maybe they're using really, really small hands for this particular figure. Changing out the hands, by the way, I just finished talking about that. So he's got the very large gauntlet. Doesn't make him, just by virtue of that, make his hands look that much smaller. What we're going to do, though, is we're just going to remove the hand, divorce it completely from the peg. We're just going to pop then in the new hand. There we go. There we go. And I would say one thing, at least with these gripping hands, this one only gripping hand we get with the figure, if I get it all the way on there, it does make it proportionally a little bit bigger. Just because the fingers are extended, obviously, it just makes it look like his hand isn't as tiny. That hand, by the way, will be doing a lot of work because the figure has only 2 accessories, but he only has 1 gripping hand. These have been painted, or more so, maybe they've been molded. No, they probably have been painted here in gold. I don't know what the original color would have been because everything is wrapped up so nicely, like a chocolate. It's a little off-putting, the fact we get ourselves like a gold, like Batarang, we got ourselves also a gold utility, a gold grapple gun. It just doesn't seem like something Batman would carry around with him. I would always just tend to think of gray, dark gray, blue, black, probably would be the go-to. Gold just seems a little out of place, but I know obviously with a figure like this, being that it's a digital, bunny ears, digital exclusive, I know obviously they just want to also jazz up some of the accessories as well. The grapple hook, by the way, is very soft in plastic. You can't remove it. Don't try to rip it off, whatever you do. But what you will do, at least, is that you can take this and you fit it into Batman's hands. The hands themselves, or at least the handle for that matter, is pretty thick. So you really have to kind of dowel it to get it in there. But Batman does hold it fairly well. And it also start the review with him holding the Batarang. And it works basically the same way. But again, like very thick accessories. The other thing that Batman comes included with, and perhaps some could say the selling point of this particular figure, if I just move everything else out of the way, move that out of the way as well, is that he also comes included with an alternate Bruce Wayne head portrait. No, that's not what we're looking at right now. This is basically a cowled version of Batman, and it does look very good. I feel, though, looking at this, that it isn't the same head sculpt, and you can let me know down below. Again, I would have loved to have been able to find the DC Rebirth Batman. It's always the case. And then when I'll be cleaning up probably weeks from now, I'll just happen to come across it. But at the time, of course, of doing the review, I couldn't find where it ended up going. Everything else, it seems to be the case, is the same one as we got from the original Black Calv release. But it does seem like, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. It looks like the head is a little bit different. It's painted really well, though. He's got the white eyes there. He seems to have a little bit of a scowl on his face. And you can see there's some nice outlining on the side. It does very much have that kind of Jim Lee design to it. Very, very cool. Now, again, the good thing about this figure is that he also comes included with an alternate head sculpt. And I think it does a fairly serviceable enough job of giving us a Bruce Wayne head portrait. If you did want to change out the head, it's just a case popping the head off the provided post. And look how long this post is, by the way. It's like one of those little tiny joysticks if you get ever those quarter arcades. But what you're going to do is you're going to take the Bruce Wayne head, pop it on top of the ball joint. I find a little bit of force is required to pop that in place. Sometimes it even helps just to put your hand on top and just force it down. And that's basically what it would look like with the alternate head sculpt. Pretty good. Pretty good indeed. The thing always about this, though, is unless I decide to pick up a second one of these, I think both head sculpts don't make me feel like I wish the other one was in place. Like, say, if I had this one in place, I don't think to myself, well, I'm doing the better job of having this head on the shoulders because I don't like this head sculpt. I think this head sculpt looks pretty good as well. I don't really have a lot of Bruce Wayne or uncowled Bruce Wayne head sculpts. I might just end up displaying the figure with this. But although, I feel then bad putting this away in the tray or putting it back in the bag, for example, I'm torn. I might probably just go back to this one anyways. But for at least right now, you can see like this one does have some decent sculpting for the hair as well as his face. He has, at least for me, a little bit of an animated series vibe to it. I think they've sculpted a decent job on it, but there's no cowl flip down, for example. Tends not to be something we get a lot with DC. They would do certainly a lot of that with like the Marvel figures, where like if you had a Wolverine, for example, he'd fold back the collar piece, the cowl piece, and it would just be sitting on the back. It's only one thing I really wish that this figure could have also had, because obviously, unless Batman is taking off, like say, like he would just have like a helmet piece, for example, you could justify it that way. But with Batman usually having a cloth cowl, you would think that he would fold this back and it would be sitting somewhere back here. It would have been fun if they could have also included a folded back cowl piece. Basically, it would just sat over top of the neck, and they would just put Bruce Wayne's head over top of that. As for the rest of the figure's body, now using again still that DC Rebirth body, so you've got now the raised emblem there on the front. I've really liked the way that this works with the outlining there in yellow. Never used to like it, but I like it a little bit more the more times that I've seen it. He also has slightly more of a streamlined utility belt. It looks like he would hold basically nothing but just capsules. I don't even know whereabouts he would actually store, like, I don't know, like batarangs. Bat shields would be out of the question. There'd be no place. Sorry, Adam, there'd be no place to store a shield, for example, on this. Tiny little capsules. Maybe some things that would have to fold in. It'd basically be like folding in paper, which I think when you fold paper, you can't get more than is it 8 folds or 11 folds? When you fold a paper in on itself, basically, you reduce its size by half. I think it's like 8 of them. Anyways, what was the point I was really talking about is the fact that it just doesn't feel like you could be able to store really much of anything in here other than gas capsules. But it's a pretty cool looking utility belt. The majority of his outfit does have a little bit of armor to it, but it's not too busy that it looks like... I don't really like SWAT looking Batman suits. I like the idea of more so that Bruce Wayne's walking around more just in a fabric outfit, and it's just his wits that keeps him alive. But there's a little bit of panel lining there. There's not too much that make the figure too busy. You got something there on the side. You've also got some additional sculpting they put on the front. And there's also a few little areas there. One of the notable things, though, also about the Rebirth body is that it has tiny little bat emblems for kneecaps. I think that's kind of fun, especially if you wanted to knee somebody in the face. If he had the knee low enough down, you probably could, I don't know, that probably would poke somebody in the eyes if they weren't too careful. Some decent sculpting on the boots. The boots are about the only thing that's, between that and the gauntlets, about the only really thing that's busy on the figure. Of course, he does have a nice, decently sculpted cape as well. This is all plastic, so they're not using yet a fabric cape for this particular body of Batman. You never know, down the road they may do that, though. A nice cape, though, overall. Now, for the figure's articulation, going back to the head sculpt, first of all, the head's going to be on a ball joint, so it rotates all the way around. The head looks up, the head looks down. And actually, looking down, it looks really good. You might just try to find a way to kind of get the cowl. If you get that a little bit closer to his body like this, no one would be any bit the wiser there's actually a Batman face or eyes for that matter. You could kind of just have, like, for example, like if you just bend the elbow like this, you could have like Batman kind of holding the cowl. I personally always really like, again, like the idea of a cloth cowl rather than something he would actually just take off as a helmet. Just kind of loses the illusion for me that I like the idea that the cowl and the cape are one piece. You like that too? Let me know down below. Figure, though, does have an upper torso ball joint. He also has a lower torso abdomen ball joint. Shoulders easily come out because there's no restrictions at all with the cape, even though the cape does have a little bit of fold over on the shoulders, not to the point where it feels like the arms are restricted. They might be a little bit more restricted, granted, if you try to rotate the arms all the way around, though. He has a swivel there on the bicep. The figure also possesses a double hinge on the elbow, and the hand do rotate all the way around. I feel, though, I don't have the hands all the way on their peg, especially with this being the only hand to accommodate any bit of holding. I really would hate to have the hand falling off. Legs do split out. The only downside, unfortunately, to this is probably something you've already seen, is that the leg sticks pretty high up, and he's got very small trunks. Who wants to tell him? Very small trunks. The thing about, unfortunately, though, is with this being softer plastic, anytime you try to move the leg out, and it's more so on this side on mine than it is on this side, you can kind of see, like, this leg always ends up fighting with the trunks. I might just have to... I mean, you could obviously just go in there with, like, a little small... I don't want to say like a knife, but like a little small screwdriver, not to cause damage to the plastic. And may just want to lift that over a little bit, maybe soften it a little bit in like with a hairdryer, and just kind of pull that out just a bit and tuck the leg a little bit more in there. Because unfortunately on mine, at least, you can see like it just keeps continuing to crimp the plastic. Anyways, the legs move forward, they move back, they move out. Even more damage being done there. There's a swivel there on the top of the thigh. There is also a double hinge on the knee. There is no articulation here because this is one continued sculpt from the rest of the calf. Ankle pivot back and forth, ankle rocker back and forth. And the figure, again, does have some toe articulation as well. Ultimately, though, I don't know if I'm going to take a trip back to Walmart. I mean, first of all, I do want to take a trip back now to see that they're actually now finally, Canada's catching up, stocking stuff when it comes to DC Multiverse, and actually new stuff, too. I'm leaving a space also here so I can bring in this version of Batman, which for still the longest while is my go-to Batman. You know, the Rebirth, though, I like the colors on this one. Not to say I didn't like the colors of the black cowl and the black cape before, but I gotta say, like, the blue works pretty good with this particular mold. A selling point, obviously, for this may not necessarily be the fact that you get yourself a foil-wrapped chocolate batarang or a grapple gun. It might be more for the fact that this figure also comes included with the Bruce Wayne head portrait. The hardest thing, though, about this is giving up this head sculpt, because I actually like this one, how this one turned out as well. But we get very few times that we ever get ourselves actually a Bruce Wayne alternate head portrait. I might just find myself, for at least right now, displaying the figure with that instead. If I could ask everybody just to revert their eyes from the man who's got the severed bat head in his hand, somewhat of a believable look until you start to spin the figure around, like on a rotisserie like this, we can kind of clearly see that Batman's face is still showing on that cowl piece. The only way around that, other than just doing it what I'm doing right now, is to have the figure, if he had been packed, for example, which is an unfaced cowl piece. But I know that's also asking a lot of the company to include all this extra molding of plastic. The fact that we do finally get ourselves a Bruce Wayne head sculpt with one of our Batman figures, which I'm trying to think of it right now. Have we ever really gotten ourselves a DC Multiverse from Todd's team that actually did have ourselves a Bruce Wayne head? I can't think of one right now. It will come to me if there is one that exists. Like, I'm just going to be displaying the figure I feel with the Bruce Wayne head for right now. I feel like in good faith, I feel like I can't just put that Bruce Wayne head back in a bag. First of all, it's going to look a little off-putting, but also as well, like, just the fact that we do finally get this head. I did also try to use this head with other Batman bodies. The thing about it, though, is it has to use this size of proportions. I think it would work well with the Nightfall Batman. The problem with that, though, is that I couldn't get the head off. I heated it with a hairdryer. I tried to pull, I tried to pry, but the fact that that's my favorite Batman from what we've gotten from McFarlane Toys, I didn't want to risk it all to yank that and break the peg. So I just left it as is. But I think if with a little bit of persuasion, you probably could get that other head off and maybe even use this Bruce Wayne head for another Batman body. The head sculpt, though, is looking good, as well as certainly could be said for the rest of the figure's body as well. I mean, there obviously, you could nitpick some of this, that the colors of the blue, I think, aren't as grayish blue as that they would be perceived, obviously, in the DC Rebirth comic pages. But I think the blue works well with the gray. I do like also the emblem on this Batman body. It's not my... If I was to think of it, the emblem always will be one that... I like one with an oval. Or I like just a regular black bat. But having it outlined in yellow is not really one thing I really liked in the beginning, but this particular Batman suit has now started to grow on me. And this particular figure has done a really nice job as well. It also comes included with, of course, a couple of other accessories. He unfortunately only has really one hand to hold all those accessories. So you have to really choose, either use the batarang, either use the grapple gun, or use the hand for just holding a head like I'm doing right now. Either way, I'm glad to see that I actually found this guy in the wild. It's one of the few times I could actually even say that. Most of the time, what I always usually say at the end of these videos is that I always have to go online because here in Canada, distribution isn't the greatest. Let me now correct myself saying that. Distribution has gotten just a little bit better. At least McFarlane Toys, that is, has now started to stock a lot more things in our Canadian stores. So I was lucky to actually find this one on the store pegs. Have you guys had the chance to pick up this one for yourself? And let me know down below in the comments section what you guys think of it. Obviously, we were looking today at the McFarlane Toys Digital Batman from DC Rebirth, now in a blue cowl and blue cape. Minus, of course, the fabric cowl on the back of his body. That's also one thing I really wish the figure could have had. But overall, I'm pretty happy with getting this one and actually finding this in the wild. What do you guys think of this? Let me know down below in the comment section. Do you have the original DC Rebirth Batman? Could you see yourselves also going out of your way to pick up this version? And if given the choice, this could be also your video question for today. If given the choice and you have yourself a Bruce Wayne head sculpt, would you have the figure displayed like that? Or would you have the figure still displayed as Batman? Let me know. If in the meantime you guys did enjoy this video, I want to throw it a like. If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing and want to stick around for more, we will, by the way, be looking at more DC Multiverse reviews. So that's also in the pipeline. You don't have to wait very long either, because we're going to be looking at a bunch of them coming up pretty soon, in fact. But you want to make sure that you're not missing out on anything. Don't be the person that's left behind while Mama Bear's feeding all the regurgitated worms to all the baby bears. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. And if you haven't already, make sure you turn on the bell notification. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.